want to find out how we could use conditional sentences in arguments? Well, you've clicked on the right video. Hi, I'm Mom Ruby, and today we'll talk about conditionals and arguments. In the past videos, we have discussed the basic structure of conditional sentences and the different types of conditionals. If you haven't seen them, please try to watch them first so we could have a better understanding of what conditional sentences are before we dive in using conditional sentences in arguments. Again, in English grammar, a conditional sentence is a type of sentence that expresses one situation as a condition for the occurrence of another situation. So that's why conditional sentences are normally divided into two parts. So a conditional sentence is divided into a condition, or which is also called the antecedent, or the dependent clause, or the if clause in our sentence. And the other half is the result, which is the consequent or the independent clause or the main clause in our sentence. So there are many terms, but they are all the same. So just remember, when we talk about the condition, it's the antecedent. And when we talk about the result, this is the consequent. Let's take a look at this example. If I don't leave in 5 minutes, I will be late for the meeting. So this conditional sentence can be divided into two parts. The first half, which is the if clause, if I don't leave in 5 minutes, is our condition. Okay, this is the situation that needs to be met in order for the result to happen, which is also called the antecedent. And this is the dependent clause because it cannot stand on its own. And the other half, I will be late for the meeting, is the result of the condition. So the result is also called as the consequent, or our main clause or independent clause in this sentence. Usually, but not always, they are expressed in this format or in this form. If plus then. The condition followed by the result. As I've said, usually but not always. Remember, you can also place the result first before the condition, such as this sentence, I will be late for the meeting if I don't leave in 5 minutes. So this is actually the same sentence that we had, it's just that we started with the result or the consequent before stating the condition or the antecedent. So again, in conditional sentences, the clause that follows the if is the antecedent and the other clause is the consequent. We have to keep in mind that conditional statements can be classified according to many criteria. In the previous videos, we talked about the 0, first, second, and third conditionals, right? Aside from that classification, another common way of classifying a conditional sentence is classifying it into indicative and subjunctive conditionals. Indicative conditionals refer to situations that have a realistic chance of happening, as in, if I pass this course, I will graduate on time. So this statement is likely to happen, that if I pass this subject or this course, I will graduate on time. However, when we say subjunctive conditionals, this describe purely hypothetical situations that can't happen or are very improbable to happen. For example, if I were you, I would pick up some extra eggs at the store. So this sentence is classified as subjunctive because I could never be you. Okay? So that's the difference between indicative and subjunctive conditionals. Now, for our discussion, we'll focus on indicative conditionals. Indicative conditionals, that is sentences in the form of if P then Q, or condition followed by the result, they are everywhere. We utter them in everyday conversations, in political or legal debates, or in scientific discourse. For instance, if we keep emitting greenhouse gases at our current pace, the oceans will rise and many cities will be flooded. So which do you think is the antecedent here and which do you think is the consequent? That's right. The if clause or the condition is our antecedent, and the main clause or the one that shows the result is our consequent. The condition described in the antecedent is believed to be sufficient on the circumstance described in the consequent. To say that it is sufficient, meaning it is enough. We don't need anything more to prove the result. Consider, for example, this sentence. If someone is a mother, then they're female. Now, in this sentence, if someone is a mother is our antecedent because that is our condition. And our result is then they're female, which is also called our consequent. Now, if we know that someone is a mother, not just a parent but a mother, that is enough to show that the person is female. Therefore, being a mother is a sufficient condition on being female. It's like we can easily assume that if the person is a mother, we can easily conclude that that person is female. It is not, however, a necessary condition on being female, since being a mother is not a requirement for being female. You can be female without being a mother, right? On the other hand, being female is necessary for being a mother. If someone is not female, then they can possibly be a mother. Okay? So I know this sentence is questionable because, of course, technically, motherhood is not gender specific. But just for the sake of distinguishing and showing the relationship of antecedent and consequent, we will use this example, okay? So again, being female is necessary for being a mother. So if someone is not female, they can't possibly be a mother. So when we say one thing is necessary for another thing, that means that if you haven't got the first, then you haven't got the second. Water, for example, is necessary for plant life, right? So no water, no plants. Thus, this sentence says that being a mother is a sufficient condition on being female, and being female is a necessary condition on being a mother. So in general, for any conditional sentences, the antecedent is a sufficient condition on the consequent, and the consequent is a necessary condition on the antecedent. Like arguments, conditionals may express inferences. So what do we mean by inferences? These are conclusions that we reach on the basis of evidence and reasoning. Nevertheless, a conditional by itself is not an argument. The difference is that when you put forth an argument, you commit yourself to the truth of all of its parts. Kahit pa sabihin natin na it's only for the sake of the argument. So when you assert a conditional, however, you do not commit yourself to the truth of either its antecedent or its consequent. For example, if Michelle is elected, then I'll eat my hat. So someone who asserts a conditional like this one, okay, is convinced that neither the antecedent nor the consequent is true. He or she is just simply betting against the person. Ayaw lang niyang manalo si Michelle, but he or she will definitely not eat the hat if Michelle is elected. So I'm sure you have heard this before, especially among politicians.
At pag hindi ho nangyari ito, nandiyan po si Secretary Abaya, no, na makakasiwa ng proyektong to, dalawa na kami magpapasagasa siguro sa tren.
Ngayon, pag ayaw nila, dyan sa Spratly, Scarborough, sasakay ako ng jet ski, dala-dala ko yung flag ng Pilipino at pupunta ako doon sa airport nila, tapos itanim ko.
Conditionals, however, can figure as parts of arguments, as premises, conclusions, or both. Let's take a look at this example. If you study, then you'll pass. If you pass, then you'll graduate. Therefore, if you study, then you'll graduate. As you can see here, we have three conditional sentences, right? The first two are the premises, and the last one is actually the conclusion. The consequent in the first sentence was transferred into the second sentence and was used as antecedent. So kung makikita nyo, yung consequent sa first sentence ay ginawa nating antecedent sa second sentence. Sa conclusion, we use the antecedent from the first sentence and the consequent from the second sentence. Here's another example. If I sleep late, I feel ill. If I feel ill, then I can't work well. Hence, if I sleep late, I can work well. So it's the same thing. The first two sentences are the premises, and then we have the last statement, which is the concluding statement. And we also did the same thing. The consequent in the first sentence, we use it as an antecedent in the second sentence. And then, for our final sentence, we use the antecedent in the first sentence and the consequent in the second sentence. So we combine them, and therefore we already have our conclusion. But remember, in general, an argument is valid if and only if its corresponding conditional is necessarily true. And that's how we use conditional sentences in arguments. Thank you so much for watching this video.